Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's AGC of America webinar, How to Quickly Build Digital Workflows to Save Over 700 Hours Yearly on Repetitive Processes. My name is John Ross, and I'm the Marketing Manager of Business Development at AGC of America in Arlington, Virginia. I'd like to introduce today's presenters, Rebecca McManus, Territory Manager at FlowForma, and Gerard Newman, Chief Technical Officer at FlowForma. Gerard, I will go ahead and turn it over to you.
Sure. Thank you. So first of all, maybe we'll have a quick look at the agenda. So first of all, hello everyone and welcome and thank you for attending. So today we're going to share our experience automating processes using digital workflow in the construction sector. So we'll walk through why process automation is a strategic imperative for construction organizations. And then what we'll do is share some real world examples with you by walking through 3 case studies that we've prepared. We can then just talk about why there is an opportunity for automation and why doing so is the new norm. And then we'll have some time for some questions. So I'll kick off just talking about the kind of technologies that are available in the construction sector if we want to move to the next slide. So as I'm sure, if you want to go to the next one. Thank you. So as I'm sure you're aware, there are lots of different construction technologies available in the construction sector. Just like loads of other industries, construction is being bombarded with new technologies, which are great in that they open new possibilities, they solve common problems, they alleviate the burden of difficult or error-prone tasks. And I think that the construction technology sector received over 1.5 billion in investment in 2021. So we can only presume that the range of technologies and the capabilities they deliver for the sector will continue to grow over the next few years. So we all know that embracing some of these technologies is essential to allow us to compete and to grow the business. But knowing this doesn't make it any easier to decide what technologies will deliver the most value for your business and in what time frame you might expect a return on your investment. So today what we're going to do is we're going to explain why we think that embracing process automation can deliver a quick return on your investment, while at the same time being a key enabler of your digital transformation journey. As I'm sure you know, construction is a very process-driven industry. More processes are added to ensure the business can scale, to ensure quality, to ensure compliance, to ensure standards, etc. So these processes are used across the business through background functions such as finance, admin, HR, but they're also used on-site to support day-to-day operational activities. These processes are spread really throughout the business, and they carry and gather information to and from the various process stakeholders. And in many ways, these processes they're like the glue that holds the business together. But in construction, what we found is that these processes are often paper-based and manual, or in many cases, they've been turned into spreadsheets and emails. So whereas this provides some level of automation, it doesn't make participating in processes any easier, and it can cause delays in gathering accurate information, and it can actually take people away from doing their core job. So because these manual processes are in use across the business, if you can digitize them, then the benefits are experienced across the business. So this helps open the business's eyes to what can be achieved, and in our experience, can create a viral effect for further process automation in the organization. Now, in some cases, creating that demand for more process automation can actually be a bit of a problem, because if you're automating processes using your scarce IT resources, then that can take some time to actually do. However, the approach that we found really useful and successful in the construction sector is to enable non-IT people to automate processes themselves. So this approach accelerates process automation across the business. And we have some really good examples of construction companies automating tens or hundreds of processes themselves within a short period of time. So automating processes should be quite simple, as it fundamentally involves guiding people through collecting data, using forms, passing this data to others involved in a process, and creating some output, be it a document, an email, or some integration from another system. So it shouldn't be too complicated. So we were wondering, why construction companies were so keen on process automation and where they got their return on investment. So we surveyed over 300 companies with a series of questions designed to help us understand this. So when those questionnaires came back, 69% of people said that they were interested in process automation because they needed to move away from their manual and paper-based processes. They simply couldn't scale their business, and they felt that the manual processes were hampering their objectives for digitally transforming their business. Now, coincidentally, 69% also said that they had experienced in the past individual projects that had been impacted by overruns due to manual processes, and that these overruns had in turn impacted on their margins. So another key thing was that 37% of them said that process automation could help them overcome problems they had sharing data between construction sites, between the administration offices, between project managers, etc. So we see this issue expressed in many different ways, and it is often a source of frustration, the inability to share information across a complete project with all of the various locations that information may need to be consumed in. So 23% of people were also concerned that their workforce were lacking core digital skills, and that this was a barrier to rolling out multiple different applications to support the business. So as a result, a standard way of digitizing processes was attractive because it meant people didn't have to learn lots of different applications. And this in turn minimized the training overhead and the change management involved with actually changing or digitizing processes. So we then, in looking at customers we were already working with in the construction sector, we looked at some of the challenges that they face and the problems that they were trying to solve using FlowForma. So information accuracy is a pretty common one. So I think the issue here really is that information can be hours or days out of date. And when that is the case, particularly in construction, the opportunity to take action has often passed. So process automation can address this by enabling electronic data capture at all points in the process. Visibility and reporting was a common thing, where people, once they have this accurate information, they now want more reporting, more analytics of that data so that they can make better decisions in a more timely way. I've already mentioned compliance and standards. So people complying with their internal and external standards was a key reason for looking at process automation. And a key part of complying with standards is being able to prove that you've actually done that. So this is where process automation very much came into its own. So in many construction companies, the existing compliance trail or the proof that you've adhered to these standards is actually manual and paper-based. But with process automation, that can be digitized so that everyone can be guided through a process to make sure they do it in a standard way. And at the same time, you're collecting the necessary information to evidence that you've actually done so. I suppose to a certain extent, this applies to health and safety. So this is a common use of our platform. So you need to ensure that you have a robust health and safety system for recording and actioning any issues. So process automation can really help with that and allows any risks or health and safety breaches to be recorded immediately, and for these then to be followed up and actioned. And finally, recruiting and onboarding was a common use case as well. So I think the challenge here is being able to recruit and onboard large volumes of people to actually work on projects, but to make sure that they're all appropriately certified, that they're onboarded correctly, and that they're available when you actually need them. So for some of our clients, running this kind of process is actually very difficult when you're running it manually. So process automation was used to streamline this and make it a more predictable process. Okay, so if you'd like to take a moment and select one of these options, we'd be interested in your views and opinions on the challenges that you face. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, the integration is obviously the clear leader there in terms of the challenges that you face. That's a really common one, particularly as the technology environment in construction becomes more complex and there's more and more applications in place. Then integrating and tying them together is very important. So we've had to overcome a lot of those challenges in some of our existing customers. And can't automate the workflows in-house is another one as well. So we really do believe that if you can train your business users to actually automate their own workflows, you're going to get rollout and adoption workflows much quicker. Okay, so maybe we carry on then and have a look at some of the process trends for 2022. It's always difficult to predict the future, but we can have a look and see what's been happening over 2021 and see what we can actually predict might happen in 22 based on that. So there is a huge interest in automating processes in construction. There has been in 2021, and we expect that to continue at pace as companies look to replace their manual and paper-based processes. So we do expect that to be business-driven, and we do expect it to be at scale. Once, as I mentioned earlier, once organizations see what they can achieve, they tend to want to do so very quickly. So another key thing we've seen in 2021, which we expect to continue, is process boundaries kind of breaking down. So often people think of their process as being internally within their own organization, but we see those barriers disappearing and processes spreading out across the workforce in all of their various locations, but also spreading out to clients, suppliers, subcontractors, etc. So the more you can involve those people in the process, then the more benefit you're going to get from automating a process. In terms of expanded analytics, I suppose the key thing here is that when you start automating processes and removing paper manual-based processes, you actually start gathering a new type of information that you didn't have access to before. Information, for example, about how long it takes a process, what the status of the process is at any one time, where blockages are, etc. So we've seen this being, I suppose, something that people have been looking for a lot more information on and a lot more willingness to analyze this data alongside other business data. And finally, we mentioned this and it came up in the poll there, as construction companies implement more applications, the need for integration grows. So we've seen a huge growth in this over the last year and expect it to continue. So there's lots of, I suppose, commonly used applications now in the construction sector, and there's also growing ways of integrating those together. So I'm going to hand over to Rebecca now, who's going to talk you through some of the case studies. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Gerard. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca McManus. So today I'm going to talk to you about some real world case studies of companies that have went on their process automation journey. So we have Sullivan Engineering, Morgan Construction, and the Gallagher Group. So if we look at this slide here, we can see a couple of companies that have gone on their digital transformation journey and automated processes. So we have the likes of NG Bailey, Grafton Group, Coinford, and the A14 Integrated Delivery Team. So with the A14, so they were the largest road construction project in the UK, 31 kilometres, and that cost about 1.5 billion. So that was a joint venture between Costain, Skanska, and Balfour Beatty. So they automated a lot of their processes, but one of the processes they automated was a TRM process, and they were able to save £77,000 for that alone, and also 3,800 hours of admin. So here, if we look at Sullivan Engineering, so they are a building restoration company. So they're based in New York, New Jersey, and Massachusetts. So one thing to note is that Sullivan Engineering, their customers say they always go a step above and beyond its competitors, and they always deliver above expectations. So this is something that they are proud of and is important to them. So previously they had a massive amount of manual and paper processes that they were really getting bogged down with. So moving away from paper and improved document generation and management was really important to them. So a couple of the processes they looked at automating were the likes of COVID checklists, field inspection reports, and leak investigation reports. So which in turn led to improved client satisfaction. They were more efficient, they had higher productivity, and they were more agile. So Sullivan Engineering was able to rapidly decrease project turnaround times, capture better data and insights, and able to put time and resources into the jobs that matter, instead of getting bogged down with the likes of paperwork and administration. So the key takeaway from this particular case study was, that they were trying to fully digitize their organization and remove paper, but they were able to do this by using a no-code process automation tool. And they were able to use this to drive rapid adoption and quickly deploy a solution to the problem. So here we can look at Morgan Construction. So Morgan is a civil construction company based in Canada. They have over 500 employees. So a lot of their projects will be based on environmental projects. So the main, I suppose, area for them that they were looking at was the onboarding side of things. So Morgan had a team of recruiters and coordinators that relied heavily on Microsoft Excel spreadsheets in order to manage and track their onboarding progress of employees. So this method was becoming quite time consuming. They were susceptible to human error, and it was just no longer an efficient tool considering the stage that the business was at. So they had a high volume of individuals that needed to be onboarded at this stage, and they had a high volume of new hires. So what was also important to them was having visibility over data and reports to accurately capture the data. I think having centralized data and the ability to identify strengths and weaknesses within processes was important, and being able to also identify bottlenecks within workflows. So the main process they were looking at was the HR onboarding, but they were able to also automate the likes of fleet maintenance, fleet transfers between sites, and employee expense claims. So a couple of the main pain points for them was that they were over-dependent on time-consuming Excel spreadsheets. They had excessive paperwork, and they didn't have any visibility over any of their workflows. The sign-up process for projects took way too long, and there was also an increased risk of human error. So by rolling out a business process automation tool, the benefits they had were they were able to standardize simplified processes by using a no-code solution, also encourage the business user or citizen developer, as we say, to self-build workflows. They were also able to automate accelerated time to process completion, and they also had clear visibility of the processes along the entire approval chain. So this then resulted in real-time and accurate reports to executives and client sites. So everything was kept up to date, and the status of when employees and contractors would be available for their next job was also visible. So they were able to see up-to-date KPIs and key metrics, and the status of new hires throughout the whole process. So what they were able to do was take a giant Excel spreadsheet with endless data entry that they had totally outgrown, and they were able to combine this into a process flow that was intuitive for their people to use, which in return then led them to significant cost savings. So I think with this particular case study, the real key takeaway here is the tracking and visibility side of things. So knowledge is power, so it's so important to capture those valuable insights. So here, if we look at Gallagher Group, so they are a civil engineering company based in Kent in the UK. They look after the likes of property development, design, contracting and quarrying. So they have over 300 employees, and they also have 20 live project sites. So some of the main challenges that they faced were that they had too many manual processes, especially for the likes of inspections. So they were quite email, Excel, and paper heavy as a company, and that led them to a lot of challenges. So the solution for them was that they were able to deploy a process automation solution to eliminate the likes of email, Excel, and paper. They went live with 40 automated processes. So one of the key takeaways from this particular case study was that they had allocated this particular project to 2 non-tech people, and they had tasked them with building out a couple of workflows. However, after finding a no-code, easy-to-use solution, they were able to build those 40 processes in the space of only 10 weeks, which is such a short space of time. So really the key takeaway here is you don't need to hire a team of developers or people that are really strong in IT in order to build these processes. If you use the likes of a no-code solution, you'll be able to get the business user or the citizen developer to build out these processes. So Gallagher was also able to cut customer complaints by 50% with their process automation tool, as they were able to reduce things like mistakes and delays on projects. So why implement process automation? So you can use process automation to digitize workflows, documents, and forms. Process automation can help with improved delays on projects, which can lead to unhappy clients and money being lost for the company. So mistakes can be eliminated because of human error, and the speed in which processes are completed are increased, which can lead to significant cost savings. So I think when choosing a solution, it's important to find something that's intuitive and agile, and that can be easily scaled across the whole organization, not just for specific groups or teams. So you'll be able to have the ability to deploy and scale at speed. So I don't know, Gerard, if you have anything to add there.
No, I think you've covered most of that very well. I think the whole point though about the speed, and that's one of the things that's really we've been really impressed with in construction companies, is the speed at which they actually can roll out process automation across their organization, and the enthusiasm with which they actually embrace that. So all of these things about being no code, agile, intuitive, all of those things help actually make that happen and make the organization achieve that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. So digitizing typical construction processes. So I think this slide is pretty self-explanatory, but it gives a bit of an overview of the different types of processes that can be automated. So I think it could be worth just taking a moment to look at this particular slide and see, does anything jump out at you as processes that are currently causing the biggest headaches in your organizations? Like, is there any here that are causing delays on projects and time being wasted and money being wasted? So I think that's why it's important, again, to pick a scalable and agile solution. So I think from our experience, we often find, and Gerard, I think you pointed this out earlier on, that a lot of organizations have a lot of different systems in place for the different teams within their organization. And none of these systems are able to communicate with each other. So they'll have one system for the likes of HR, another system from finance, but none of these systems can talk to each other. So I think it's important to find a scalable solution that can be rolled across different teams and departments. I think that's quite important in order to streamline communication between the different teams. So as you can see from this slide here, it's not just construction processes, but you have the likes of HR processes here and then finance included. So you can roll this out to the different teams within the company.
I can talk about this if you want. So I mean, one of the things we've also seen a lot of is that there's a lot of commonality in many processes across the construction sector. So one of the things that we've spent time doing is building out some templates. So what these allow you to do is these give you an accelerator so that it's easier to get going with some common processes. Because we know that kind of process automation can seem a bit daunting, but if you have something that gets you most of the way there, then it's always a good start. And these templates can be adjusted to your needs, so they can be customized as you so that they'll fit into your business and fit alongside your other existing systems. So I think these are pretty common ones, as you can see on the list here, and they're mainly focused around the construction processes rather than the HR and finance ones. I don't know if you want to add to that, Rebecca.
Yeah, I think it's just really helpful if there is a solution that has the likes of accelerators or templates, because I think it can be quite daunting to start a project. So it's kind of helpful if there's something there that you can customize and tweak just to help you get the ball rolling, so you're not completely starting at zero. I think that can help accelerate the time to value as well. The timeline to process automation value. So, they call it a journey, and it is a journey. It is a process in itself when you go and automate. So when starting your digital transformation journey, there's a few things to take into account. So it's essential to take into account what's involved and how long it will take. So at the start, you want to take into account things like process mapping sessions to evaluate what processes are causing the biggest headaches and what needs to be automated, and what needs to be done throughout each different stage. So what resources are needed and what needs to be allocated to the project, who's going to roll this out, and when is this going to happen. So you need to take into account the time that takes for implementing a new solution, the same as implementing any new solution, but also upskilling in that new solution, and then the time it takes in order to build those processes. So you can see return on investment immediately after automating your first process. So you can imagine what this will be after, say, 12 months. The return on investment will be completely multiplied. So really, the key message here is just don't delay. If you do nothing, nothing will happen. You won't see any results. So I think it's important to just get started and get the ball rolling and focus on getting just one process automated, one that's causing the biggest headache. And you'll be then able to see the return on investment. And then you can gradually scale this out to different processes within the team, or gradually scale this out to different teams within the organization. So I think if you have a look at this slide, you can see a couple of ROI stats that we have. So say £80,000 saved per significant process, 50+ processes automated per year, processes deployed 60% faster, 700 hours saved on repetitive processes that take a lot of time, and over 100,000 sheets of paper saved in a year, and also a 50% reduction in customer complaints. So there are some good examples of some ROI stats that we have.
Yeah, I suppose the other point just out there is that it often seems that doing nothing has no cost associated with it. But if you've got inefficient processes that you're effectively wasting money on, there is quite a high cost of actually doing nothing. So as Rebecca says, the sooner you can start doing something, and the sooner you can start benefiting from the savings that you'll make by automating your processes.
Yeah, and I think when you get started, you'd be surprised at how fast you can actually see those results.
I appreciate you going into the case studies and letting us know exactly what digitization is used for, and the benefits, and how companies have gone about implementing it. So that's really great. We do have a few questions here for you. How long does it take to digitize a process?
I can take that. Well, I think that last slide gives you some sort of indication of what's actually involved. So, I mean, from our point of view, what we're always trying to do is get people up and running with the digitized process, really from a standing start in about 2 to 3 weeks. So, there is skilling up that organizations need to do. And our approach to that is very much really skills transfer. So we have a thing called the Sure Start program. So what we do is work very closely with our customers to get that first process up and running. And while we're doing that, we're transferring skills about how to look at a process and also how to actually use the platform as well. And what this does is it enables people so that they can then take the reins and continue on with process automation across their organization. And some of the case studies are a good example of that, where people have seized the initiative and just continue to automate processes by themselves. So 2 to 3 weeks from a standing start for your first one, and then to continue that momentum on over a period of time to automate as many as you can.
We do have another one here for you. What is the difference between the process that we've been talking about and Microsoft Power Automate?
Sure, I can talk about that. Yeah, so Power Automate is a fairly common platform that you can build lots of different things in, including process automation. So one of the ways we would position ourselves alongside Power Automate is that we have a no-code approach. So what this does is it allows the business users, citizen developers as we call them, to actually build out processes themselves. And this is a bit different to Power Automate, because you can do a certain amount in Power Automate without technical skills, but you can kind of quickly get into a situation where you need to have technical skills to allow you completely build out a process. So our focus is very much on the business community and enabling them to build out process automation themselves without requiring technical skills, because we see access to technical skills there's a shortage of those. There always is. There's always backlogs of work to be done. So they can slow down the speed of process automation when you need those kind of skilled people involved. So we like to get the business people working on automation themselves, and they can refer to the IT team when they need to.
I think as well, we'd be typically 5 times faster than a provider like them because of the no-code element as well. So I think that's important to know. So like what might take you 4 weeks to build with one solution would only take, say, a week with a no-code solution.
Okay.
Right. Another one here for you. You mentioned no code, but what is the underlying code base?
Oh, the underlying code base. Well, there's various technologies that we use in our platform. So the overall platform's hosted on Azure, but the main thing we're using is Office 365. So we sit alongside SharePoint and the Office suite, and we use various technologies then in the creation and deployment of that application.
Do you have any tips which can help to prioritize which processes to automate?
I suppose if you can find a process that's causing the biggest headache, and maybe that will affect the most amount of people within the organization, that can be a good route to go down, because I think the return on investment on that will be more compelling, and it'll be more compelling to the wider organization. However, sometimes if you just want to get, if there is a simple workflow or a simple process that could be automated, it might not take you too long to build. That can also be a route to go down as well, as you'd see like quick return on investment on it.
All right. Here's another one. Sorry, it's a long one, so I'm gonna have to scroll. Do you market your product in the CLM industry? What is the difference between CLM products such as DocuSign, CLM, I'm not entirely certain how to pronounce this, LCERTIS, etc.
Yeah, I suppose we actually, in terms of where our product sits in that landscape, we actually regularly have to integrate with things like DocuSign. So as part of automating a process, you may be creating documents that need to be digitally signed or sent to various partners for signature. So I think if you look at something like DocuSign, then that has a narrower use case. So we're not just looking at managing the life cycle of a document. We're actually really looking at managing the life cycle of data across all of your processes and getting that into your organization so that you can work with it, which often entails creating documents, which in turn entails getting those documents distributed out to various third parties for acceptance.
All right, another question here. Our processes often change. What does it look like if you need to make a change in a no-code process automation tool?
Well, I think it's much easier to do it in a no-code solution. From speaking to our customers, some of the challenges they have is they have the likes of, say, maybe Power Automate or something, and they've coded it, but when they hire someone else to come in, it can be very difficult to untangle. It can be difficult to make amendments to any coded solutions, whereas with a no-code solution, it's very easy for a new hire to come in and be able to kind of take over and be able to customize it and make amendments to it. So that's some feedback we've gotten from a good few of our customers when they've hired new teams to manage the platform, that they've been very positive with how easy it was to pick it up so easily and be able to make those amendments.
Yeah, if I can add to that a bit, I mean, one of the things we'd actually encourage is that people constantly change their processes. And by that, I mean that as you develop out your processes and try and improve them, it's an iterative approach. So we want organizations to get their process up and running, and then to look at how they can improve it and how they can make it more efficient. So we've got examples of people who continually improve processes, and because, as Rebecca says, it's easy to do, it actually encourages people to do more of it.
All right, another question for you. Do you integrate with ERP such as Penta and Coins?
Yeah, we've a wide range of integration capabilities. So I need to look at those two particular applications. But we have very generic integration interfaces, such as REST APIs, etc., which generally allow us to communicate with most of the standard applications that are out there in the construction sector.
Right. We have existing systems in place already. So this is a very similar question. Does your system integrate well?
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, integration, as I said, is one of the things we're seeing more and more requirements for. So we have, over the last 18 months, we've extended the integration capabilities available on our platform. And I suppose the most generic one is through a series of REST APIs. But we are looking at integrating with other more integration as a platform type services like Tray and Automate, and more recent entrants into the market like Agave.
Thank you both for joining us. We really appreciate the, like I said, the information regarding digitization and the benefits of that process, and how it can help contractors and specialty contractors all save time and money and make sure that everything is running as smoothly as possible. Thank you to everybody who joined us today. We appreciate you taking the time. With that, thank you very much and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
It's great. Thanks so much for that.